I guess I'm really interested in using different types of technologies to tell stories. So that's kind of very much where I am as a practitioner. My other role is that I'm the international lead for the School of Digital Arts in Manchester. So again, a large part of that engagement is that I help set projects up with other universities overseas. I also help set study abroad options, so our students can go on exchange to different cities in different countries. They can go for a semester, or they can go for a whole year. And we have a lot of students who come to Manchester to us from different universities in different countries. I also work with a lot of universities to help set partnerships up for students to come to our university at undergraduate level or postgraduate level for our master's programs. And also, again, engage with postgraduate research with PhD students as well. So yeah, my remit is to help all students to have an international curriculum, to have an international perspective, and also I'm a Mancunian, as we call ourselves, Manx. And again, you know, I'm someone who's very proud of my city, and I'm very proud to be helping shape my city as it develops, and as a lot of changes take place in the UK. So as part of that, my real ambitions are to help shape the future of filmmaking and of digital storytelling. We're in a really exciting position with the technology in terms of it enabling us to tell different stories and to shape the future of what cinema can be, of what storytelling. Well, storytelling will always be storytelling, but the mediums change. So I'm really interested in, you know, how we kind of find different formats and platforms to tell stories. And I guess the main thing as part of that is to help our students to get jobs and to help shape that future as well.
Well, thank you, Dr. Duffy. That's a great job that you have been doing for many years. So I will translate all of your introduction to our parents and our students. So hôm nay là chúng ta rất là vinh dự khi có tiến sĩ Duffy. Ông tiền thân là một người theo đuổi ngành làm phim, và bản thân ông có thực hành rất là nhiều những chất liệu khác nhau, bao gồm là về cả nhiếp ảnh, và ông có cái niềm đam mê và đi tới những cái nghệ thuật mà nó thiên về cái moving picture và đi tới làm phim. Thì công việc chính của ông, ngoài những cái thực hành về nghệ thuật chuyên môn ra, thì Dr. Duffy đã dành rất nhiều thời gian để có thể là làm việc với tất cả những học sinh ở những cái vùng khác nhau, và đặc biệt là học sinh ở vùng Đông Nam Á, và không chỉ là những học sinh ở những cái hệ foundation hay là hệ cử nhân. Dr. Duffy còn hỗ trợ trực tiếp cho những học sinh mà có kế hoạch dài hạn để theo đuổi chuyên ngành làm phim này, và những chuyên ngành có liên quan đến sử dụng cái công nghệ số để có thể đi vào thì tương lai. Trong phần giới thiệu của ông Duffy thì ông có nhấn mạnh rất là rõ về cái tính quan trọng của cái multimedia, và đặc biệt là về mặt hình ảnh có liên quan đến công nghệ trong xã hội kỷ nguyên số ngày nay. Thì ông rất là hy vọng là trong buổi webinar hôm nay có thể là đưa tới cho quý vị phụ huynh và các học viên rõ được là những cái bức tranh tổng quan về cái chặng đường làm sao để mình có thể là xây dựng được là con đường đi tới chuyên nghiệp đối với chuyên ngành làm phim này. Và một lần nữa là Dr. Duffy rất là cảm ơn quý vị phụ huynh và các học viên đã dành thời gian để tham dự buổi webinar hôm nay. So thank you for your presence. So I may have a brief about about the contents of the webinar today. So we will have the three parts. Sorry. So we'll have the three parts. Part one, this is the introduction about the Manchester Metropolitan University. So part two, we can have the introduction to the filmmaking career, and part three is the most important thing that our parents and students want to listen from you, is the career opportunities for the filmmaking students. So let's get this begin, Mr. Duffy.
Okay, great, thanks. So yeah, what I'll do first of all is I'll just share my screen and talk about the Manchester Metropolitan University. I'll talk a little bit about the School of Digital Arts, and I'll be kind of jumping between different platforms because I'll show some stuff on PowerPoint, some stuff on Instagram, some stuff on Twitter, and some web stuff as well when I'm talking more about the career opportunities. So yeah, let me just begin a little bit with the university. So hopefully, can everyone see that screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, so we're in, just make that a bit bigger. Okay, so yeah, we're in, basically we're in the northwest of England. By train, we're about 2 hours away from London. We are pretty much the cultural capital of the north of England. We pretty much see ourselves as the, I guess we see ourselves as the second city of the UK in many ways. Well, we do anyway. To be honest, we Mancunians see ourselves as the first city in the UK, but that's a sort of slightly different story. So yeah, we're very much, we were at the heart of the Industrial Revolution. So our art school goes back to those traditional roots in terms of training craft artisans, training people to develop all the design principles and the artifacts for the Industrial Revolution. In a video, you can just see some kind of material of Manchester itself. The symbol of Manchester is the bee. So you'll see in Manchester, you'll see lots of icons of the bee everywhere, because the bee is the sign of industry. It's a sign of the industrial past. It's a sign of pride, unity, and identity. And all art school buildings are shaped like beehives, so that there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas. Students from different disciplines and different subjects, they're able to collaborate with each other. So again, you know, we're kind of producing kind of creative honey, if you like. So yeah, it's very much a very, very affordable city. Generally, it's about half the price of London economically. We have a lot of people investing in Manchester because it's one of the most affordable cities in the UK for students. It was actually classed as the 10th most affordable city. It's Manchester's UK's best city to live in. So that was from the Economist Intelligence Unit. Manchester, again, wins lots of titles for the best place to be globally for a lot of different reasons. It's the third best student city in the UK and top 5 European business city. Manchester is actually the fastest growing European city and the fastest growing tech hub in Europe, basically. So there's a lot going on in Manchester. It's like a building site. You can see in this picture a lot of cranes in the background. Since for the last 10 years, the city's been developing at quite a high rate as lots of companies come to us from North America, from Canada, from Hong Kong, from Southeast Asia, from all over the world, basically. We've had a huge amount of interest, lots of investment. There's been in the UK itself, there's been what we call a levelling up, where the southeast of the country has been kind of unequal in terms of its wealth distribution. So the government's been focusing on developing infrastructure to get higher speed train routes into different cities. It's been levelling up the northern parts of the UK. So what we're seeing with Manchester is there's a lot of money and a lot of businesses moving from London into the Manchester region. So yeah, it's a great place because the campus itself is in the centre of Manchester. So our students, if you arrive into Manchester on the train, it's a 5-minute walk from the train station to get to our campus. Students can just walk into the city centre. They can walk to food venues or gig venues, music venues, to the cinema. We're literally a 5-minute walk away from the city centre of Manchester. We are in the heart of the city, basically. We have 40,000 students, 2,700 students from over 100 countries, 330,000 alumni, again, from international alumni from different countries. We have 14 research centres and over 130 different clubs and societies. Just to articulate, we don't have teaching on a Wednesday afternoon because students take that Wednesday afternoon to do their sports clubs and societies. So we have a very, very kind of vibrant student society, student union. Again, research is a really strong part of what we do. So we have 14 different researchers right across the university. So like I say, research is a really, really kind of key element of what we do. So we're world leading and internationally excellent with our REF, the Research Excellence Framework, where academic staff have to put research in and they get judged on this. So a lot of our staff get grants, they get research grants, they're doing projects, they bring that knowledge back into university at a high rate. So obviously I'm from filmmaking. So I'm in the Arts and Humanities faculty. So I'm in the School of Digital Arts. So I'm in the School of Art, basically. And I did mention, just to put a little bit of context into Manchester, we were founded as a School of Design in 1838. We pretty much, I mean, our building is very much kind of rooted back into that historical relationship of craft, art and design. And yeah, we opened up a new institute of the School of Digital Arts just 2 years ago, so in 2021. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So again, you know, we have, we're a city of literature, we're a UNESCO creative city. We have the Manchester Writing School. So again, lots of our filmmakers, they collaborate with writers. To be honest, all filmmakers collaborate with everyone. It's a very, very collaborative process, filmmaking. So students engage with lots and lots of different disciplines. I'll talk about that in more detail when I get to filmmaking later on. So it's the oldest and largest art school, well, one of them in the UK. So yeah, we're very, very much rooted in design, art, performance, digital arts, architecture and fashion. You can see that image in the background is just from our art school building, the Benzie building, where we have a lot of MA, master's degree shows and undergraduate shows from design, art, from media based courses, all kind of exhibit there. That's a cafe space where we have bands on and music events as well. So yeah, we're really interested in digital and traditional technologies and crafts and skill bases and workshops. So it's very much a mixture of those different ranges. So yeah, we also have the Fashion Institute as well. So that's a picture of the old building. That's the old school, as we say. That's the introduction into the Holden Gallery, which is one of our large gallery spaces. That's, you know, again, some of the new buildings. So we have lots of new buildings over the last sort of 10 years. Like I say, all new School of Digital Arts only opened in November last year, so a year and a half ago. And this is the building, the business. So this is the Benzie building where the main art school courses are in. So we have a lot of new buildings, a lot of new facilities, and a lot of new resources as well. So in terms of the World University Subject Rankings, we're in the top 100 for art and design in the QS. It was second in the UK for research power in art and design. So we're very much an art and design focused course. We have different departments from art and performance. So from art and performance, we have different courses like fine art, curating, art history. We also have a school of theatre with acting, drama and contemporary performance, which is great because a lot of our students work with the actors. The drama and contemporary performance degree has a lot of stage direction, a lot of people interested in theatre management, a lot of people interested in performance. So all students, in particularly filmmakers, in second year, they collaborate a lot with the drama and contemporary performance students. We, just as a case study, Asia Triennial Manchester is Europe's only triennial dedicated to contemporary visual art on the theme of Asia. So Al-Noor Mifa, one of our senior research fellows, deals with Asian cultures in terms of visual art and representation. And he organised the Asia Triennial. So we have lots and lots of artists from different countries. Particularly, you know, obviously Asian countries, it's an Asian themes, series of exhibitions. And that's fantastic because it's every 3 years. So the next one will be 2024, so next year. And it takes over the whole city with lots of different exhibitions. Just to put a little bit of context for the Manchester itself, we have the Manchester School of Architecture, which is ranked number 5 in the world. It's an innovative collaboration between Manchester Metropolitan University and the University of Manchester. So again, architecture, we do some collaborations with architecture, with filmmaking and with School of Digital Arts. All students work with anyone. Sometimes all students work with the architects to design miniature environments, to create projection map spaces and green screen kind of characters into these miniature environments, and basically to do anything that they want in terms of their imagination. So yeah, School of Architecture is one of those other schools that we have that, again, our students collaborate with. I won't go into too much detail. The School of Digital Arts, I'll focus on that in a moment. And again, that's just an image of our School of Digital Arts building. It's a brand new building. it has an LED light display on the front. So again, we have different artists who are created to produce work for that, to play work for it. And we have competitions where we have competitions where students in different countries can apply for the competition, and their work goes on the outside of the building as well. So I'll show an example of that in a short while so you can get a sense of it. The Fashion Institute is, again, we have lots of great courses in fashion. The Fashion Institute brings together lots of courses around design, communication, business management, fashion and technology, and fashion promotion. But we also have filmmaking students that engage a lot with fashion because they make fashion films, or they collaborate with students who actually become art directors for their projects, or they design their sets, or they design the props, or they design the costumes or the character elements. So collaboration between different programs is really, really important to us as filmmakers. So I won't go too much through all of that, but this is one of our gallery spaces. This is the Holden Gallery. So this is an artist piece that was in there for a while. This space changes, and we have like student work in there. We have different international artists playing in there. We have lots of workshops where people are making, you know, they're making obviously their own research, their own projects. You know, again, if filmmaking students want to collaborate with students on these courses or fringe courses, then they just hang out and get together basically. So like I say, we're very much a creative space, very much a making space, and very much practice makes practice. So very much about making practice. And design is a big part of that. So, you know, we have lots of design courses that are interested in material and technological innovation. So yeah, all students will sometimes collaborate with, you know, graphic designers or interior design in particular. Filmmakers interact a lot with interior design because they work with those spaces. They work with designing spaces for their characters. The animators actually work with interior design quite a lot as well. So that's just a view of the city from our building. So just give you a sense of how close we are to the very centre of the city. Okay, so I won't play all of that because it's slightly different. So I won't go through too much of the design courses. I'll keep it towards Soda in a moment. But we have the Manchester International Festival. We're one of the sponsors. We're one of their partners. It's a big international festival that takes place in Manchester every 2 years. So again, it starts in June. So again, we have lots of international artists, events, theatre events, concert events, gallery events. So there's lots and lots of different initiatives that we have. So I'll just move through the design section. So I'll just stop that for a second, and I'll just very quickly share another screen just around our School of Digital Arts. Okay, so I'll just share this screen in a moment. Yep.
So there is a £35 million investment.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is an image from our gallery in Soda called the Mobile Gallery. So Soda, the School of Digital Arts, is a new building. Like I mentioned before, we're Europe's fastest growing digital and tech hub, fastest growing city in Europe. The regional economy in Manchester for the creative economies, the digital economy rather, at the moment is worth 5 billion. It says it's increasing rapidly. So we're looking at becoming 10 billion in the next year or two. So like I say, Manchester is becoming a magnet for a huge amount of businesses. We had something like 1,200 startups last year alone, just around digital kind of tech. And for all students who used to in the past, maybe 20 years ago, would go to London or overseas, in the last 10 years, we've seen most of them kind of starting to stay in Manchester and set companies up. They become the employers for a lot of our graduates as well. And they become more industry linked. So the city is changing rapidly in many different ways. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of the UK creative industry sector. IT, software and games, and film and TV are kind of leading the way in the UK with the creative industries. It's a huge investment. It's been increasing around 6% every year since the last 5 years. In Manchester, I'd say it's probably getting towards double that actually, or even more. Because like I say, we're having a lot of people moving from London to Manchester, particularly since lockdown. We had, again, sort of every year there's thousands of companies being set up in Manchester. Some of those are digital, some of them kind of different types of companies. But 70% of the UK games industry, games companies, were only founded since 2010. So again, we're seeing in the last 13 years alone, 70% of the games industry has kind of been established in the UK in terms of the growth. I mention games because when I get to careers, I'll talk about that a little bit more because there is a very significant relationship. So yeah, there's literally IT, software and games, and then film and TV are the main kind of growth areas in the UK. Then advertising, then publishing, and then you get smaller with music, arts and culture. So yeah, we're kind of as a digital technology kind of hub, a creative technology around art design, filmmaking and games, etc. We're kind of in that sort of area where there's a lot of focus on jobs and a lot of focus on employability. So we have a lot of industry focus for all area. So a huge amount of industry focus, a huge amount of attention around, I could say, what the skills are needed for industry, what the employability aspects are for us to help our students to get jobs. So we have industry engagement with advisory groups for our school digital design, digital arts rather. So Oscar-winning director Danny Boyle, who directed the film Trainspotting, who also directed the Oscar-winning film Slumdog Millionaire, is just from around the corner from the university. So he's on a panel. He comes to the university, gives talks, he meets our students, he has tutorials with our students from filmmaking. He's very much down to earth. This is the guy who's an Oscar winner, who's directed lots of feature films, who's had Leonardo DiCaprio in his films and various big Hollywood stars, but would rather sit down next to a 19-year-old student and look at their work and talk to them. So he's a fantastic character. So we have a lot of different people who come in to talk, from production companies who advise us on what industry is looking for. We have, again, sort of visiting professors who are musicians, composers, photographers, animators. So for us, it's really important to have all of these different voices coming in who are leading their kind of creative sectors. In the School of Digital Arts itself, obviously I'm going to talk about filmmaking in more detail in a moment, but you can see these other courses we have. And I mention those because we have projects every Friday where students from all of these programs work together. So the filmmaking students get to understand animation students, they work with sound design students, they understand how to work with future media production students who work with virtual production spaces and VR. And they work with game students because they understand how to work with storytelling and scripts for games, what kind of stories need for the characters, developing those characters, what kind of cut scenes are needed, what kind of trailers and demos are needed. So again, there's lots of relationship between all of these different disciplines and collaboration. We do have MA programs, so a lot of our students do opt to go to the MA, particularly international students who come to the UK. They might do the undergraduate, an extra 1 year MA, and then they have their 2 years working visa before they have to get sponsorship for work. So there are these options for our students to think about in terms of master's degrees for postgraduate. We put this in because very recently, one of our graduates, Dan Forburn, who only graduated 3 years ago, has just won an award for Sony Future Filmmaker for Best Fiction. So he went to LA, went to Los Angeles for this award. So again, our students are constantly sending work to festivals, they're winning awards. being competitive is really key to what we do. Getting students to make their work, not just for themselves and not just for assessment, but for the wider world, so that the world sees their work, is really important. So sending work to competitions, sending work to festivals is part of what we do from day one. So anyone who wants to look a little bit more at SODA, we have, so on the screen you'll see our Twitter. So yeah, our Twitter site is there. Oops, hang on. Okay, so it won't be a second. Okay, so yeah, there's our Twitter site. So again, you can see a lot more information about the School of Digital Arts on there. I'll go into some of the other stuff in a moment. So I'll stop sharing for a second and just go into the filmmaking material. So I can see some questions there, but I'll answer those questions when we get to the Q&A section, actually. So keep firing away with questions, actually. Anyone who's got any questions, keep throwing them into the chat, and then, you know, we'll get to those in a while. So I'll just grab the next presentation. And I'll talk a bit more about the filmmaking course itself, what we do on the filmmaking course, what kind of activities there are on there as well. Okay, so let's see, I'll just grab this one.
Quý phụ huynh và các học viên nếu có câu hỏi gì thì có thể để lại dưới box chat, và đội ngũ nhân sự của Artpink sẽ giúp quý phụ huynh và các học viên tổng hợp và gửi lại tới Dr. Duffy. Okay, just few conversation with our audience to help them to leave the questions, and then we can let it to the Q&A sessions. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, I'll just quickly share the filmmaking presentation. I'll talk about this. And to be honest, as I'm going along, I'll probably talk a bit. I'll show some good websites actually to look at film careers and futures in film as well. So that you don't get bored of my voice too much, you know. So let me just share this file. Okay, won't be a moment. Okay, so filmmaking in our program is a 3-year practice-based course. There are no, I can say there are no exams. We don't sit people down to do exams. There are no tests in terms of an exam situation. We are practice-based, so all students make films. They make films on a regular basis, every week, basically. And when our students aren't making films for our assessments or for our crit groups or reviews, they're making films because they want to make films. They're getting equipment out from the AV store, the audiovisual store, for 5 days at a time, and they're sending work out to festivals, or they're applying to competitions, and they're making work. They're collaborating with different people from different programs. So it's very much a art school based filmmaking course. We allow our students as much freedom as possible to choose their pathways and to understand their pathways. So it's digital art and film school with art school philosophies. We work a lot through narrative fiction, documentary, and artist moving image, as well as new media types of projects. In the first year of our program, we literally kind of take filmmaking and we deconstruct it. So a lot of students come to us with a particular narrow view of filmmaking. They maybe haven't had that much experience watching lots of different types of cinema or being exposed to different types of film. So we do a lot of experimentation. We look at the language, the craft, and the art of film. We experiment. We pull film apart. We look at very early filmmaking. We look at Russian, Soviet montage film, you know, for the 1920s. We'll look at films from every different period, from different genres, from different countries, from different cultures, and different types of filmmaking. So we'll look at lots and lots of different filmmaking. We give lots of exercises. Students work collaboratively as well. Filmmaking is very much a collaborative process. This image in the background is from a film where they did a lot of choreography, working with dancers, and did a lot of very kind of experimental work as well. So, you know, we're very much about teaching the building blocks of film, looking at different areas of film and looking at really the rich tapestry of filmmaking and teaching all of those different practical skills, giving lots of live briefs. In the first year, every single week for 10 weeks, the students make one film. They make films based on symbolism. They make films based on sound design, where they focus on that. They make films on documentary, on portraiture, on landscape, on place. They make films about sort of stories and characters and ideas. They make films based on montage, so they have to make films where they examine one aspect of montage principle. So again, lots of theory is embedded within the course, lots of contextual practice, lots of looking at artists and filmmakers, going to galleries, going to film festivals. So we're a living, breathing, creative, practitioner-based course. Our first year curriculum is shaped like this. This big line in the middle is Christmas, basically, is the end of our first semester. So first year we have film concept and vision, where students are exploring film art. They're exploring experimental film, documentary. They're exploring mise en scène. They're working in lots of different groups, 3 or 4 people in a group, and then switching over the next week to make a different type of film. And every week when they make a film, they have a review where they look at the film where people give feedback, and they get feedback from each other and their peers, as well as the staff. You see, filmmaking technical skills 1 is where all the workshops take place. So when we're doing sound workshops, we need to do Foley workshops so students understand how to create sounds for different elements, or non-diegetic or for diegetic elements of the film. We also have all of the lighting workshops, the camera workshops, the post-production workshops, studio workshops. All of those take place in filmmaking technical skills 1 and 2. They're workshop heavy units, basically. Creative practices in filmmaking, again, is where students learn how to work with directors or script writers on productions which are more fiction orientated around narrative. So they're looking at working with actors and performance, working with scripts, working with story, working with fiction. So we go from the first unit, which is more experimental and documentary, to the second, which is much more about storytelling and working with actors. So learning how to cast and learning how to rehearse and learning how to work through their ideas and learning how to direct is probably a big part of that. You see this chunk called the Soda Collabs. This happens every week, once a week. Students from filmmaking collaborate with students from game art or sound design or animation or photography, or the VR-based course. And they, over 10 weeks, they work together, they do workshops, and they make one project together with all those people. So I'm just going to leave this trailer on. Hopefully you can hear it. So this is some examples of first year work. So that film was well, made by 2 students in the first year of the course. Just wanted to quickly show, I'll show some more examples in a moment. But that film was a 24-hour film challenge. We gave the brief on Monday morning at 10 o'clock. They had to hand the film in on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. And all the students had it was a Halloween brief, basically. So they had to do something Halloween related or horror related in one sense or another. And the way the brief worked is that students had, they had boxes where they chose prompts from the boxes. These students chose from one box the prompts, and it had written on it, pair of white shoes. The next prompt had the location, it was a hallway. And the next box had a plot device, which was a number 52. So they just had 3 random elements put together to make a story from in 24 hours. So that film is an example of what you can do in 24 hours, just with some loose ideas, some very small ideas. And it won quite a few awards actually in film festivals. So again, from first year, we encourage our students to send the work out to festivals and actually see themselves as practitioners from day one. I'll just play some more work as well. So again, some of these projects were in response to particular briefs around symbolism. So to embed symbols within the projects, or to work with metaphor, for example. This next one, you can probably guess what those metaphors might be. So here we go.
Bye, honey. I'm gonna go see a friend.
I think in high school, when you think about poetry, think about it as this grand thing, this big, hard to understand thing. I do poetry mainly. I think I call myself a writer or an author, and I just try and make the best art I can. My introduction to poetry always had people of color in them. So it wasn't something where I saw it and I thought it's just Shakespeare and it's just, I never thought of poetry like that. I always thought of it as something where people of color can also thrive and be iconic.
Memory. Happy birthday to you.
Would you like to start with meditation?
So that gives you a bit of a sense of the first year. So yeah, from day one, all students in the first year, they do lots of projects. They change their groups, so they're working with different people on these projects. They're beginning to understand what it is that they kind of are interested in, rather than being forced into being interested in something. They try lots of different kind of practices out, and they're encouraged to send their work out to festivals. So we do lots of workshops, lots of practical workshops. And again, students, they're doing workshops in artist film, documentary, fiction. They're doing workshops and experiencing roles and making films as directors, producers, script writers, as editors, sound designers, as art directors. They're working in production, post-production, really working and developing pre-production. They're being shown a lot of artist work. Lots of industry guests come in. And they, again, are encouraged to go to galleries, not just to watch films, but to actually go to galleries to kind of look at artists, to read books, to immerse themselves, basically, so that will actually kind of feed through their work as well. So yeah, when they get to the second year, that sort of building block of the first year with foundation is really kind of honed in with second year through exploration. We begin to explore a lot more themes in detail, different types of structures for filmmaking, and pathways to find your voice as well. So it's really important for us that each student begins to understand what it is that they're interested in. They begin to find what their voice is and what the themes are that kind of underpin their practice. So you begin to develop more specialisms that connect to you as a filmmaker. So yeah, we want people to discover what their strengths are in the second year by really beginning to investigate much more around those areas. So for some people, it's sound design, it's directing, it's been a cinematographer. For some people, it's been an artist filmmaker. For some people, it's a documentary filmmaker. For some of us, it might be about investigating VR or thinking about working in the games industry with their kind of film practice, or working in a more commercial sector. So it's very different for each individual, basically, and that's the way we like it. So the second year curriculum is the very first thing that we ask people to do is to make a self-driven project, a film about themselves. They have to make a film about their identity or their culture or their family history or their body or their sexual identity or their gender. Some people make films about their phobias. Some people make films about strange dreams that they have. Some people make films about a really interesting family member. Some people make films about, their own relationship to their body. So it's about the self, to look at the self and where stories come from individually. So again, it's really, really important because we want to kind of, as filmmakers, we want to tell stories. We want to tell stories that maybe some people don't want to say or don't want to tell. It's our job to kind of uncover and unearth and to excavate those stories and to be able to find ways for people to engage and to feel unafraid to be themselves as storytellers, as practitioners, and to help in many ways, I guess. There's a social kind of theme behind that, that we want people to be able to express themselves and to communicate and to help society to express itself. So it's that film storytelling first unit in the second year is very much about exploration. It's very much about experimental film, artist film, and documentary as well. Students do lots of projects. Once every 2 weeks, they make a project around using found footage to tell stories, to construct new stories in a more kind of subversive way, using material to kind of, as a form of collage to put that together. Students also make films about place, about a sense of place. They look at things like psychogeography. They look at place-based storytelling. Some students look at interactive storytelling and different emergent kind of media forms of storytelling. Also, we look at performance in that as well. So students will look at artists from the 1960s and 70s onwards, working with performance, video artists as well, early video art. So we're really interested in the future of filmmaking, but in order to have a future, we need to look at the past. So we incorporate a lot of that into our activities. Film Industry Skills 1, again, lots of workshops, and Skills Industry 2, lots and lots of workshops, but a focus on show reels, professional development, on employability, on working on live briefs, on developing LinkedIn profiles, websites, Vimeo channels, developing how to actually fund projects, how to apply for funding, how to send film off to film festivals. So film industry skills 1 in first year is more the building blocks of the technology. Second year is much more about developing your practitioner kind of status, being able to brand yourself, being able to develop that, looking, I guess, you know, at how to market yourself as well. And when we look at obviously the collabs I mentioned before, is this collaborative unit that takes place every Friday with different courses. Collaborative process is in contemporary film is narrative film. It's working mainly with fiction. It's looking at storytelling. It's looking at how to tell stories with non-linear type of storytelling, with, you know, with stories that repeat or that they loop, or stories that have multiple characters from different perspectives. It's also films which, it doesn't all have to be documentary, it can be art, it doesn't all have to be fiction, it can be documentary or artist film, but generally I would say most students work with fiction in this unit. Again, it's work with actors and performance. So yeah, that's some elements of the second year. I'll show some other stuff in a moment, a bit of a show reel in a second, but the third year really is where our students hone everything together. They literally go from the first year as a foundation, the second year is an exploration, to the third year is a realization. So they're working this in a more concrete way. And they start that by the first thing they do is looking at research and innovation. So they begin to explore an area of practice that they want to really hone. So for one person, it might be a particular area of artist film. They want to be a gallery installation artist. So they might look at moving image in a gallery context and begin to explore a particular theme in more detail. So they test that out in lots of different types of practices. They go to different research groups and seminar groups and workshops that focus on those areas. Someone else might want to be a director and maybe a script writer, so they'll go to director and script writing research groups and seminars, and they might focus on casting and rehearsing and working around maybe character or maybe particular types of stories. So they're honing their craft through researching their craft, and then they get to their major film, which is this area over here. That's what we call a graduation film. So it's usually a 10-minute film where students might work on one film, or they might work on 3 or 4, depending on the skill basis. And that's the film that they send off as the big calling card to festivals. They'll spend a lot of time really pushing this out there, basically, to get awards or to get festival coverage and to get employers to notice them as well. So while they're doing that, they have applied practice 1 and applied practice 2, which is again where they're looking at how to set up companies, how to become freelancers, how to become their own production companies, how to deal with tax, how to deal with budgets, how to apply for grants, how to fund projects, how to develop Kickstarter campaigns and social media campaigns and marketing campaigns to raise money, how to design the whole of their film with electronic press kits, how to actually get it out there properly. So all of these different, and again, you know, some of that will be working with clients, with professional practitioners, and making money basically as a practitioner. So that's one of the things we do. I'll put the show reel on so you can see a bit more of this.
You mean she died?
I mean, she died. Are you all right? What's happened? It doesn't really feel real. It just feels like I've just dreamt it.
People have a reasons for doing what they do.
That's not good enough. You done something?
It's funny. I don't even like the voice.
Morning, Alice. You'll be needed at work at 7:30. This time, no more fantasy. For the first time, I'll be
So that was a showreel of some of our third year work. I'll show a different showreel in a moment. So yeah, professional and employability is a real key strand of what we do. There's Danny Boyle with some of our students. Again, you know, we have lots of different practitioners who come in to run workshops. We have, you know, lots of producers, lots of different folks. Our students, again, are really kind of pushed to apply for commissions, to apply for funding, to apply for projects, to get paid work, to work with clients, to understand how to budget and how to actually fund projects, how to price up their projects and how to make money from their craft, basically. The key focus for us is that we want our students to have their voice, to be creative, but also to be able to be financially viable so they can have a career that is an investment in their future. But a career that doesn't feel like a job, you know, a career that they're actually passionate about. So filmmaking isn't a 9-to-5 occupation. Filmmaking is a lifestyle. So anyone who wants to come into filmmaking, it has to be a living, breathing form. You know, you're filming out on location until 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe filming for 3, 4, 5 days at a time, maybe editing all night. Maybe you're making your film in Morocco or North Africa or somewhere in Europe or in Spain or Italy or in Manchester in the tower block. Or you might be making your film back in Vietnam, you know, deciding to shoot somewhere on location there. So it really, for us, we want our students to be practitioners and professionals, but we also need to teach them how to be professionals. We also need to teach them how to get employability, or how to get employment. So that's a big thing. Let's put this talent lab on for a second. So we bring in a lot of talent, particularly this is just some stuff from our third year. Some experimental workshops, again, you know, running your own company. We bring in lots and lots of different practitioners, so cinematographers. We have our students do installation work. They have their films winning awards with people like the Deutsche Bank. And at festivals, you know, doing Q&As about their work. So it's a really, really big thing for us to kind of get the work out there, to get the students winning awards and pushing it out. So yeah, it's a part of that film community is a big part of what we do. And of course, the staff are all practicing filmmakers. So Lauren Dunn, our filmmaking producer, made the world's first feature film, which was about trans pregnancy. Lauren is a filmmaking producer who's also a graduate of the filmmaking course. Jenny Baines is an artist filmmaker who does a lot of performance in 16mm and analog film. Mark Thomas works a lot with large gallery installations and music videos. He's our employability guy. Amazing, you know, network of different kind of projects. So a lot of our staff are artist filmmakers or documentary makers or script writers or directors of television, feature film. A lot of our working with sound design or post-production or different areas, basically. So in terms of career prospects, there's lots. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of endless, really, in terms of what the careers in film are. Obviously, you know, there's lots and lots of independent production companies and editing houses. A lot of our students, I'd say, end up setting up their own production companies eventually. or generally will be freelance practitioners as directors, editors, sound designers, producers, script writers, production designers, visual artists of one form or another, or documentary filmmakers. We've had students working with lots of companies, including Warner Brothers, Universal Pictures, Marvel Studios, Paramount Pictures, ITV, Heyday Films, British Council Film, Channel 4, Walt Disney Studios, Fox Searchlight, The Gate, Vice, Media Dog, Calumet, 24/7 Drama. So these are just some of the companies that our students have gone on to work with. And like I say, employability is a really big kind of factor. Any job that comes through to the university, anybody who's looking for students to work on a project, we only give it to our students if it's a paid project. It has to be paid for us to actually engage with it. We only ever want our students to work on projects where they're actually going to be valued, where they're going to learn something, but also where they're going to give something, and where they'll actually have much more sense of confidence and self-worth by being paid to do what they do really well. So that's a big thing. In terms of the entry requirements for our course, I guess it's the equivalent of, the A-levels, BCC to BBC, 104 to 112 UCAS tariff points, BTEC, DMM, distinction merit. So again, there's different ways of applying. There's lots of different kind of strands there. We also take a digital portfolio. So if you apply for filmmaking, you'll be asked what to do. I'll click on that in a moment, actually. Usually it's an online portfolio with a show reel. Just to add in as well, we do have a placement year. So students who come to us, so if you guys come to us in Manchester, then you can do a study abroad option where you can go for a semester or you can go for a whole year. And do a study abroad in one of our partners in Australia or North America, in Canada or America, USA, wherever basically, or in Holland. So it's, it's up to you. It's a really popular option for our students because they can do a placement, so they can take a year and do a placement, or they can study abroad. And internationalization is really important for us because we set projects up with other universities where our students work on projects with universities all over the world. We've literally just finished a project with Durban University of Technology in South Africa and Fio Vale in Brazil, where we, based on the Humans of New York project, where students had to make a small 3-minute documentary about a person in their city. That person could have been somebody who works in a local shop. It could have been a bus driver. It could have been the person they pass, on a regular basis who has a stall, whatever. It's just a person in their city. It could be someone they know who's a martial artist. It could be someone they know who's a musician. So we did this project where students in Manchester had to find someone to make a project about, film the material. Then they had to send the material to the kids in Durban in South Africa. The kids in Durban then edited it and then sent it back. The kids in Durban then filmed somebody in Durban and then sent it to Manchester for our kids to edit it, and they sent it back. So it's like a relay kind of film project. So we do a lot of those kind of activities with different universities where our students get to know people in different countries, different cultures. And again, that's really important for us as well, internationalization. So I'll go into the other questions in a moment. Just talking about careers, we do have, to be honest, rather than me kind of going on too much detail about stuff, I'll just quickly show a couple of websites that I think would be really useful for you guys to kind of know about opportunities. And I think these are really good. If you write down the addresses of these, they're really kind of handy. And I'll talk about the different careers in filmmaking and probably get onto the question side of things, actually. So, 1 second. Okay, so I'll just share this screen. I'll quickly talk about a couple of websites that I think are really useful to look at. I'll also look at some of our Instagram stuff. So the British Film Institute, the BFI, is something we're really connected with. It's mainly for 16 to 25-year-olds who want to learn how to work in film. And they have courses for, well, they're more for younger people, but they have events. So it's run by the BFI. They take place online as well. So we have lots of online events. One of those events is the Future Film Festival. So we encourage our students to send off material to that. One of the things is the Film Academy scene. So again, gives people opportunities to learn from peers. They also run partner events as well. So again, we have lots of different things that we aim our students towards, where they can learn more about film, where they can kind of look at film, they can kind of look at, you know, having some career options. And so, yeah, in terms of learning and training outside of the course, you know, kind of connecting with the wider filmmaking community. There's lots of different things that go on, you know, so you can look at, I think the BFI is good to look at, bfi.org.uk, because there's lots of different things on getting funding to progress your creative career, on film education research, on inclusion, on funding. So, you know, getting funding is a key thing. Filmmakers' #1 rule is how to get the money, basically. Quite a lot of our students get into being producing, so being creative producers, how they learn. So they learn how to kind of get that money, how to promote the films, how to get people involved to fund it, how to get grants, and how to really make the most of that film so it can happen. Because filmmaking is more than a hobby. If it was just a hobby, it would be a very expensive one. But it's also part of an industry which is about helping to engage with cinemas, engage with stories, to develop content for Netflix or for, you know, Amazon Prime, or for television, or for cinema, or for websites, or for UX, you know, kind of engagement. There's all sorts of different kind of platforms in terms of what filmmaking can be. So the BFI, I'd say, is a really good way to look at. Just as a good, rather than me kind of go for everything that has ever had anything to do with filmmaking, just so you guys can look at stuff in your own time. I would recommend this website, screenskills.com, and film and TV drama. This gives a really good overview of the types of areas of film. So when you look at the development department, it looks at everything from what's a casting assistant, what's a casting director, a development producer for television and, you know, film, drama. These are all different jobs basically in the film industry. An executive producer, a script editor, a screenwriter, so the person who writes the scripts, you know, the producer. So, you know, we're looking at all of these different roles. So there are roles for people to actually do the casting itself, to get the actors, to find the actors. There are people obviously directing the scenes and directing the actors, script editors. So again, you click on it. This, like I say, this is a great website because it really goes into a detail about each particular role. And it tells you, you know, it's a great website, like I said, because it gives you some interviews with different, this one thing is script editing. So it gives you an interview with a script editor. It tells you what script editors do. It gives you top tips on becoming a script editor. It tells you about a day in a life in a script editor. It tells you about, you know, who does a script editor work with. So normally they work with development producers, storyliners and screenwriters, script readers and researchers. So you can see there's a huge amount of people who work in television and film in these different areas. That's just one example in one area. If we go to the next part down, so we're going from development, so your initial stage, production management. Again, once you look at production management, once you've got the money to make the film, or you're working on television projects or on a feature film or whatever it might be, you have assistant directors, cashiers, finance controllers, floor runners, line producers. Basically, line producers, the guy who gets, or the girl who gets the money, basically. Locations managers. So again, I mentioned a lot of our films are shot. We do have virtual production studios. We do have motion capture studios. And we do have lots of green screen spaces. I would say most of our students shoot on location. They find a location and then they dress it. They work with interior design or art design students, and they work as they get them to collaborate as art directors. And they dress sets basically. They turn a house from, you know, a current house into something from the 1920s or something futuristic or whatever. So we have locations trainees, production accountants, production runners, production managers, assistant production coordinators. We have the craft department. So we have art department trainees. So the guys who deal with the props, the guys who design the props, the guys who, you know, maybe kind of do all the 3D printing of those props. The construction manager, so who builds the sets, who builds the flats, who has to deal with the designing the space. Costume designers, so again, we see a lot of collaboration between film and fashion and textiles as well. Costume trainees, hair and makeup. Again, we have lots of hair and makeup courses in the region. We have loads of opportunities for students to work with those guys. So again, you're looking at production buyers, so who has to buy all this stuff, basically? Somebody has to. So set decorators, production designers. And then, of course, we have the technical department, camera trainees, the technicians, the DOP, the director of photography, the gaffer. So again, you have all these like camera assistants, electricians, grip trainees. The grip is somebody who will take the camera and be able to track the camera and get it on a dolly or a jib. So the grip is somebody who sets the camera up onto tripods, onto different platforms, onto jibs and cranes and dollies. You have lighting trainees, lighting technicians, you have sound trainees, you have video assist trainees, so people again who's doing all of like data wrangling and so on. So yeah, you can see already just in a general kind of bog standard sort of film area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 37. So we're just getting to post-production already. We've got 37 different roles, a lot more than that actually as well. So 37, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 40, 1, 2, 5. There's probably about 48 different roles in film you can do just in traditional mainstream film. So yeah, post-production, you've got archivists, bookings coordinators, colorists, so somebody deals with the grading. You've got the music editor, so you've got the sound designers, you've got the editors. You've got the people who do subtitles. There's a job, that's someone's actual job to be subtitled. You've got post-production runners, supervising sound editors. And then, of course, you've got the distribution network. We have people who get into film programming. We get people into marketing films or sales agents. And of course, we have a lot of students who want to work in the games industry because it's such a fast growing industry. Filmmaking students get involved. If you're a really good cinematographer, you've got a great sense of aesthetic, you know exactly how to operate those virtual cameras and virtual production spaces. We have students who are cinematographers who get involved in learning Unreal Engine so they can work in the games industry, so they can work with all those camera angles and so on, but through different software. We have students who are writing scripts for games in terms of script, storytelling script, not coding scripts. We have all those different opportunities. We have students who collaborate with animation students. We have students who collaborate with script designers, sound designers. We have students who work with VR guys and UX guys and designing content for VR and for immersive environments. So yeah, there's a huge range of possibility for all of that. So what I will do now, it probably seems like a good time. So yeah, if we go to the questions, I'll just go through. Okay, so
Artpink team has collected all the questions from the audience, so we can send you the link, and you can show them the questions. And due to the time of the webinar, you can choose the questions to answer and give the information to our students and our parents.
Yeah, so I guess I think I probably answered some of those questions because some of the questions came in before I started talking about filmmaking course, so I might have answered some of them. So yeah, what subjects do you study? Well, I think hopefully that was quite comprehensive. We teach everything: artist film, documentary, fiction, directing, script writing, editing, sound design, art direction, producing, cinematography. We teach students everything from Foley, how to create the sound for, the films. We teach workshops on VR as well. So yeah, the way we run is that students choose, when they get a brief, in the first year, they have very specific briefs. So they might have a brief to make a 3-minute drama with only 2 locations and 3 actors or whatever. So they have very specific instructions in the first year, but they have lots of films to make every single week with longer films with longer periods of time to make them. In the second year, when they get a brief, they answer that brief how they want to. They have to make a film with a particular story. What kind of story they tell is up to them. So in terms of what popular jobs for filmmaking studies in present and future, the popular jobs I would say are, we have a lot of students who enter the industry as, well, first of all, we like to get our students placements and employability while they're on the program. So they work on projects from the first year, second year, third year. So they're developing their show reel, they're developing their portfolio, they're developing their experience of working professionally. So they have then a network. They also have their show reels of commercial practice. And so the popular jobs really are, editing is always really popular. Anyone who can deal with sound, honestly, number one. If anybody can deal with sound, but post-production sound, how to record very good sound, how to mix sound, how to actually deal with post-production sound with film, they can get a job straight away, basically. Anyone who's sound-based in the film industry will be just snapped up like that. Foley artists in particular for sound, just snapped up completely. If you're an amazing Foley artist, you are completely and utterly worth your weight in gold, basically. Colorists, so we have a lot of students who get involved in grading, post-production. Post-production is a very hard to find job because you have to focus on frame by frame. And in the current climate of kids looking at phones and TikTok every 5 seconds, people don't always have the attention span to actually be looking at one frame at a time in detail. So people who can do that, again, get paid very, very well to grade for cinema, for film, etc. Opportunities for independent filmmakers. I would say my advice to anyone wanting to be an independent filmmaker is to set up a production company up, to get your films funded, crowdfund the films, to apply for grants for the Arts Council through the different initiatives that come up for funding, to get your film into film festivals, get the films into film festivals, enter competitions, get yourself noticed, get a profile, and do it that way. That's one of the best ways to get more work, basically, for people to notice you. How are connections between domestic and international members of the film crew frequently formed? Well, first of all, now with technology, it's much easier to work with people in different countries. I collaborate, for example, with a sound designer who works in France. So I shoot material, send her the material. She works with the files. We share mixes between each other. We have conversations on Teams or on the phone. We have our arguments, on the phone to deal with, kind of balancing things out. So technology means it's a lot easier to kind of work in collaboration without having to be on set physically. But also, like I mentioned before about these virtual online learning projects, these are great connections between all students in the UK to work with other universities outside the UK, and then for them to kind of collaborate together. We have projects where someone might write the script in one country and then it's being directed in a different country, or they'll send the material over to another country to be edited or to be graded or for the sound design to be done. So there's a lot of collaboration that can happen without having to be physically present. So what we need to prepare if we enroll in the filmmaking industry, the first thing to prepare is a show reel. I'll talk about that in a moment, actually, because that's the key thing. So I would say the main thing to prepare is to be motivated, to always turn up on time, to be a nice person to be around, not to be a difficult person, because nobody likes to kind of hang around with someone who's a pain, and who's a pain to be around, basically. I'll use polite language because I'll use very polite language because no one likes anyone to be difficult around them. So if you're easygoing to be around, if you're motivated, if you can work well under pressure, if you can find a solution to problems, if you can deal with problems and you can deal with stress very easily, and you have lots of ideas, then you're ready to go, basically. You're the perfect person that we're looking for to work in film and the creative industries. I have a question here about wanting to develop my idea into a 2 to 5 minute short film. Where do I start? Well, you will start with that idea, basically. Start with the idea, then develop that idea into, well, who are the characters? Where do those characters come from? What's the backstory of those characters? Where does the film take place? What's the narrative? Why do you want to make the film? What's the idea about? What's the subtext about that film? What's underpinning the film? What's the theme behind it? And then start developing the space for those characters to live in. Then develop what challenges or hurdles that character might have. What do you want the audience to feel? How do you want the audience to engage with the film? So I'd say they're the starting points of how to develop that 2 to 5 minute film. And then where do you start? Once you then start is well, how do you develop a title sequence for an audience to be interested in that film? How do you develop the sound design to bring the audience into the film as well? So what are some common mistakes that beginning cinematographers make, and how can I avoid them? To be honest, I mean, mistakes are really good. You need to make mistakes. You can only learn through mistakes. What we like to see is a lot of that, you know. Okay, so I've got a thing here. So with some questions on, so let me just have a look at this. What factors determine a good film school? I would say the factors that determine a good film school are, number one, enthusiastic, passionate staff. Staff who care what they do about what they do. Staff who make projects, who are practicing filmmakers. Staff who care about their students. The other things to expect in film are resources, to make sure there's plenty of resources there, whether it's equipment to use, whether it's opportunities in terms of, you know, working with other students or other courses and being able to get equipment. The other factor I would say in terms of what determines a good film school is a school that allows you the freedom to find your voice and to express it. That would be the number one. To allow you to have the freedom to find your voice and allow you the freedom to express it. Yeah, would determine a good film school. Then all the rest of it, you know, the skill bases and getting jobs are all just part of the background, basically. So what not to expect from film schools and film industry jobs? What not to expect is stability. Don't expect a stable kind of day, you know, no day is the same. When you graduate from or university, from or film course, when you get jobs, you might be working in one part of the UK for 3 months, you might be working in a different country for 3 months. So you have to be prepared to shift around. How do I keep the story consistent? Well, again, we teach script writing, we teach story development, we teach character development, and we teach place and plot. So this is one thing that we look at in terms of, I mean, I can't tell you how to keep it consistent now without actually looking at your story. So that's an individual subjective basis. But what we would do is we teach the basics of script writing. Which filmmaking style do I prefer? Personally, I've been teaching filmmaking for 20 years and I teach a lot of different types of filmmaking. But my own practice is I come from a much more artist filmmaking background, but I like challenging independent cinema. Which is more provocative, which has a lot more emotional kind of focus, which really kind of makes us forget about where we are in the world and makes us think about people and characters. And yeah, I like the filmmaking story style that I prefer tends to be maybe slow cinema, I suppose, if you can label anything, I guess it might be that. What legal considerations of video productions will I learn? Well, you'll learn all about the ethics and responsibilities of film. That's the key one. So let me just have a look. Okay, so we've got a lot of films just like asking bugs specifics about particular elements. What are the worst unexpected challenges you ever faced during a film shoot? Well, to be honest, everything can go wrong. Be prepared for everything going wrong. Be prepared to have a backup plan B, a backup plan C, and don't be afraid of the stress of just dealing with stuff. Keep a cool head and everyone else will keep a cool head. I think that maybe the most unexpected challenge I ever faced during a film shoot was being in the middle of a boat, or being in a boat in the middle of the Sunday Straits when the engine stopped and we just floated for 6 hours in one, possibly connecting to one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, in the Sunday Straits. An unexpected challenge, possibly kind of, you know, never been here again. And that was a challenge because I just had to go with it and just kind of stay relaxed until I got to the location where we were shooting, until we were able to get the engine working. But that was just one example of an unexpected challenge. Unexpected challenges happen all the time. Someone turns up without the camera. It's like, where's the camera? Or without the batteries. Or, you know, the actor turns up and the actor's shaved their beard off, you know, or the actor's had a haircut, you know, you want to keep continuity and the actor turns up with a new hairstyle. It's like, what the hell? So we've had to make a wig, you know, or go to a wig shop. Honestly, all sorts of problems can happen. It's chaos sometimes, but it's always good to have different, you know, projects and so on. So yeah, I mean, are there any? Oh God, it's so hard. There's some really interesting questions. What experience do you have with video editing, post-production, software tools? Me personally, I use a lot of Final Cut Pro. I use Logic, Pro Tools for audio. I use After Effects personally, and Premiere Pro. A lot of our students will use DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is free, so, and also it's through Blackmagic, and they're one of our sponsors. So just to pick up on one or two other questions. How will you distinguish your productions from the competition? Well, to be honest, I particularly wouldn't even think about that, because my own productions would be different, because they're very personalized. They're you know, they're quite unique, because I'm very much aware of the type of films I make. One of the last projects I made was using drones to look at children's burial grounds in rural Ireland, and to look at religion and faith beliefs and culture. And social oppression and colonialism, because it's tied to that. So so yeah, I guess my own productions that will distinguish it from other projects is, I guess I just have a very quirky individual response. I would say for you guys, how will you distinguish your productions from the competition? I'd say it's because you need to be unique in what you do. You need to be individual. You need to develop your own style or your own voice, and not be the same as everyone else, basically. When you look at mainstream cinema, of 100 films, maybe 80 may as well just be the same film with a different title, with the same characters played by different actors. It's just the same thing over and over again. So when I go to cinema, and when my son goes to cinema, when my students go to cinema, they're going to see films that are going to challenge them, that are going to provoke them, that are going to tell different stories, that are going to have different kind of values being expressed, that are going to do something interesting with cinema. So for me, I think the way to distinguish your productions from the competition is to be yourself, is to develop your own style, and to push that forward. So yeah, they're just some of them. How do you progress in the industry hierarchy? Do you get recognition from someone big, or do you attract a major production company? I would say basically you track progress, number one, by being the person that is trusted to get the job done. Like I said, turn up on time, don't be an idiot. Be someone who's not arrogant, who's not, you know, a nightmare to be around. Be someone who gets the job done, who's passionate, diligent, who works, you know, constantly to get that, is a perfectionist to getting it done. And people will ask you to do more work. You get recognition by winning awards. You get recognition by getting your work into film festivals, and you get recognition by just making work, getting it out there, basically, getting it distributed. So before I rock off, because there's just a couple of minutes left, I'm just literally going to talk about what you need to do to get onto our course in a bit more detail in terms of what we're looking for. So digital portfolio guidance for applicants. I'll just share the screen for 1 minute. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like people coming in, we have, you know, we have lots and lots of different people. Obviously, the most famous person who works for us at the moment is Danny Boyle, who's the Oscar-winning director. But we have lots of award-winning cinematographers who come in, a lot of award-winning producers, editors, and a lot of our students, they go off, they end up working in advertising, they end up working in film crews as cinematographers, or you know, setting up their own projects or production companies, working in television. It's very varied, basically. So yeah, if you wanted to apply to us, we take portfolios. So the portfolio would normally be a show reel up to 5 minutes. We like to see the stuff that people are making in their own time, the stuff you're shooting on the phone, on your mobile phone, the work you're making with your friends. We don't just have to see the stuff you're making for your college. We want to see the stuff that interests you. You can include drawings or photographs. You can include other work that demonstrates your creative interests. You might put scripts in there. You might put treatments. You might put poetry or short stories. It might be illustrations. It might think just basically things creative that you're interested in. Ideally, we're looking to see moving image work up to 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be just college work. It can be the work that you're interested in, expresses you, that shows you. that has an interest, you know, that shows your quirky approach to the world. We want to see up to 15 minutes again. You can have each slide, you know, you can have 15 slides with lots of different images on. We want to see what inspires you, the type of films you're looking at, the type of artists you're looking at, the type of galleries you're going to, the type of music you're listening to that informs you, the type of books you're reading. We want to see a sense of that. So we're interested in your ideas and development work. We want to see your sketchbooks. So again, the things that you're working out, the processes that you're engaging with, we want to see where your ideas come from and where they go to. We want to see the things that don't work. You know, we want to, when something hasn't worked, we want you to sort of show us what didn't work and what you did to change it. So again, I would say one of the key things that the film industry is looking for is skills, is ideas, is creativity, and is problem solving. All students are the people that are pushing the boundaries of film. All students are the people developing the content for film. They're not the people just pressing a button on a camera or a piece of equipment. They're the people developing the content. They're shaping the content. So we, as part of that portfolio, the show reel, etc., you can put that on a blog site or a Tumblr or Google Slides. You can put the links onto Vimeo or something else. So yeah, I hope that sort of clarifies a couple of things. So yeah, that's I think pretty much it from me. So quite a lot of information. It's quite a lot of info on Manchester School of Art, on School of Digital Arts, on the kind of things we do as well. So yeah, like I say, you know, it's always good to look at the Instagram, so I can share the Instagram with folks as well. It's I've just told all teaching assistants to do more work with the Instagram, basically. So we're going to update this over the next week or two. So yeah, yeah, I think, like I say, just getting work out to festivals, trying different things is really key. So I won't be seconds. I'll just quickly share this for one moment. Here we go. So we just had some, this is a promotional clip from some students who, their work was shown at South by Southwest Music Festival. They had New Order, the band, playing in front of it. So again, that's an amazing opportunity. They had 2 weeks to make the film. And they then, this South by Southwest film festival. Yeah, so our Instagram is just put up for a second. Just MMU_filmmaking Instagram. So yeah, we have lots of different activities, lots of different people come in, lots of workshops where we go to different locations. So you can see our students shoot on 16mm. They work with material processes. They also shoot with Steadicams and, you know, high-end digital equipment. And again, you know, they're using their resources in space, working with actors, working with performers, getting to use all the different equipment. They're projecting mapping, they're having installations, they're using, you know, kind of learning how to use this kit. And again, you know, all these skill bases mean they can get jobs quite easily then. So, so yeah, I think I'll leave that there. I'll have to love you all and leave you. But yeah, you can have a look at our Instagram. Like I say, it's going to be updated quite soon because it's a little bit out of date. So yeah, I mean, you can see some bits and pieces on there, but like I say, this will get updated over the next few weeks because we've just been so hyper busy teaching and making. Filmmaking is, like I said, it's a lifestyle, so we're literally making film constantly. So yeah, now I'm telling our teaching assistants to take a bit of time to actually put stuff on Instagram. So when you look at it in a week or so, there'll be a lot more info on there. So yeah, there's loads of different things for you to think about there. So I'll zip it now.
Thank you, Dr. Duffy. Yeah, it would be so wonderful for your huge information that you share with us in the webinar tonight.
Thanks.
So I think the Artpink webinar number 4, filmmaking, have been successful today. So on behalf of the board of directors and Artpink Academy, we sincerely thank you guys for joining us today. And we also thanks for all of our students and our parents spend time to attend at these late night times. It is 9 p.m. in Vietnam right now. And finally, wish you always plenty of health and success and happiness. So see you again at the workshop, develop your ideas, that delivered by Dr. Joe Duffy on the 8th April at Artpink Academy. And we hope to see you soon, Dr. Duffy and Beatrice.
Thanks.
A lot of students and parents are here to meet you guys in real life, just some jointly interact.
Yeah, thanks.
So have a good night.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the 8th of April in Hanoi. And that workshop will involve students making something where they can take something away with them at the end of the event. So yeah, there'll be a lot of fun activities and a lot of kind of creative processes. And yeah, no, it'll be really, really good fun. I'm looking forward to everyone meeting you guys and to meeting everyone who'll be there as well.
Yeah, right now some of my students have taken me, and they are really you know, meeting you in real life and
Great.
the next event.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, I'll see you all soon then. Okay, thanks and good night as well.
Yeah. Cảm ơn quý vị phụ huynh và các học viên đã dành thời gian tham dự buổi webinar số 4 ngày hôm nay. Các quý vị phụ huynh có thể đón chờ tới buổi workshop vào ngày 8 tháng 4 tại Học viện Artpink. Dr. Duffy sẽ qua Việt Nam và cũng sẽ có chia sẻ những cái nội dung liên quan đến việc phát triển những ý tưởng liên quan đến chuyên ngành làm phim tại Học viện Artpink. Vậy quý vị hãy nếu có câu hỏi nào thì hãy liên hệ với những contact liên lạc của Học viện Artpink để có thể đặt câu hỏi tới đội ngũ chuyên môn của học viện và có thể là liên hệ được tới Dr. Duffy và cô Beatrice. Cảm ơn quý vị phụ huynh và các học viên đã dành thời gian hôm nay. Chúc quý vị phụ huynh và các học viên một buổi tối tốt lành. Cảm ơn. Xin chào mọi người.
Cool. Okay. Thanks everyone. Okay. Bye.